My wife, 32, and I, 33 male, are getting divorced. She filed for divorce due to a disagreement regarding paying for my parents' care. My wife and I were married for 14 years. During that time, my wife didn't need to work, and my income was more than enough to sustain us and anything we wanted. Fast forward to the global issue. My father passed away, and my mother suffered a stroke soon after. I chose to care for my mother because I have the income. My wife disagreed. I stood my ground, and here we are now. According to my attorney, judges in our state tend to exercise their discretionary authority reasonably liberally. Off the record, and in his opinion, stated in the aspect of fairness for my wife, I should not contest the divorce and do it amicably, so end it quickly and fairly. When I asked what exactly the risks were if I contested, in his opinion, given our country, judges, and her reason for divorce, my wife will be hard-pressed to garner much, if any, goodwill, so she most likely won't be granted a court order that'll force me to cover her legal fees, even if I contest the divorce, even considering the wage gap. In short, I would be contesting a divorce, forcibly drawing out a divorce to make my wife rack up legal fees that she'd have to use her end of the settlement money to cover. Would I be the idiot for putting my soon-to-be ex-wife through the ringer? I would be lying if I said I'm not livid for her throwing away 14 years because I made the choice to pay for my mother's care. I also already feel like an idiot supporting her for 14 years and not getting a prenup because it seemed like we shared the same values and were in agreement. I don't know if it is spite, but I am upset. Edit. No, we do not have kids. My mom is in care, and I told my wife prior I would be caring for my parents if they needed the help. I'm an only child and a later-in-life baby. She was on board then, but as time went on, according to her, people change. To be honest, she got the raw end of the deal because I have a job and she has a 14-year blank spot on her resume. I will have a far easier time rebuilding my life post-divorce than she will. Yes, you would obviously be the idiot to yourself. Dude, divorce attorneys will be the only winners. You'll just be paying the lawyers to buy a fancy new car. Just be happy and walk away. You're giving this revenge plot too much of your time and emotion. I understand the desire for revenge. It's like looking at 14 years get flushed. If you contest it, it'll be on your mind until it's done. It's time to move on mentally and emotionally. Punish her by living well and enjoying your life. I agree. If you draw it out, you'll only end up paying more in legal fees for your side. Your lawyer can advise that it's unlikely that you'll have to cover her side, but they can't guarantee it. So if you rack up the fees, and then it's decided that you have to pay her fees too, you will feel like an idiot. Cut your losses, get out, and move on. Spite over this will cause both of you needless stress and harm. It just seems so pointless and crappy. Yeah, it's the epitome of cut your nose to spite your face. Lawyers love these people. Judges, not so much. OP, your mom is dying. She needs your help. You have finite energy. The more you feed the fire of revenge, the colder your mother will be. Focus your life, energy, and money on the end of hers. Fill her life with love and support and comfort. As for paying her way for 14 years, that was a mutual decision too. Don't play revisionist history and get angry about it now. Take the easy way out and get on with your life. My sister Laurel, 30, had her second child a month ago. Her oldest is a young toddler. During Laurel's first pregnancy, she asked different family members, except me, if they were dying to know what she was calling her baby and whether they wanted to guess the name she had chosen. One or two maybe gave a guess, but everyone told her they could wait until she and her husband were ready to announce. Her oldest, her son, she named Theodore. Her daughter is Mildred. During the second pregnancy, she asked the same questions, but still not to me. She got pretty much the same responses this time from those she asked as well. A few days ago, we were gathered for our brother's birthday, and Laurel was asking if anyone had any thoughts on her kids' names. I didn't consider myself included in this because she didn't look at me but looked at everyone else. People were like, Not really, and things were ever so slightly awkward. Laurel asked why nobody was excited to find out her kids' names, and why nobody had a big reaction. Our brother said he guessed what her kids' names would be like because of how she named her dogs, Dorothy, Stanley, and Eleanor, and he said she never hid the fact she likes really old names from anyone. Laurel was like, "What does that mean?" The really old names part. My brother shrugged. Nobody else answered. Laurel got upset and said she had expected a lot more excitement and enthusiasm from everyone except for me because I like weird, trendy names. But she thought everyone else would say what great taste she had in names. I told her nobody cares what she named her kids, except for her. Nobody ever cares about what other people named their kids, unless it's a really crazy or they really care about names and stuff. She said that was so rude of me, and I behaved like the bratty little sister who had no taste at all. Am I the idiot? I feel so bad for little girl Mildred. She's probably going to be teased for her name. At least Theodore can go by Theo or Teddy. Not the idiot. She sounds like a snob. Also, this sounds like she's got a big main character complex. No wonder you got annoyed. You have to be pretty self-absorbed if you think that anyone will ponder your unborn child's name. You have to be up your own butt if you think any of these people would make a connection with the way you name your dogs to the name you'll choose for your child, like it's some sort of dinner theater mystery. You're self-absorbed enough to serve as your own tampon if you get upset that no one gives a crap. Someone needed to tell her eventually. My wife, Dee, 28, and I, 27 male, recently had our first baby, Almond. It wasn't an easy delivery, but she's recovering and we're both back to work. That's neither of our first choices, but it was necessary to help because of our financial situation. My wife has a sister, Cecilia, 21, who lives about 12 hours away with her parents. My wife and her sister are from a culture heavily emphasizing intergenerational households and certain postpartum rituals. Because it was important for my wife to have family support, we all agreed Cecilia would stay with us for a bit to help with the baby. I expected her to stay for a few weeks, but we're going on 4 months, and my wife and I recently argued about how much longer she'd stay. Cecilia attends college virtually and has no job. She's home all day. She cooks, cleans, watches the baby, and is overall great. The only problem is, I want to be doing all those things. Call it toxic masculinity, but when I imagined having a child, I thought it would be us working together, not us and her sister. Cecilia has a bath waiting for my wife when she gets home, only considers her preferences when cooking meals, and handles most of the night duties, unless Almond needs to be fed. I've told her twice to please wake me when the baby cries. She told me she won't, unless I move to the guest bedroom, because my wife needs to get her rest. I told my wife I want her out of the house by the end of the month, but she thinks it's a terrible idea. Without Cecilia, we are entirely without support. I suggested 1 week on, 1 week off, until 6 months, but she says that's too long of a drive to ask her sister to make. I feel like I never get to be alone with my wife and child. Edit. I'm a heavy sleeper. I can do those things during the day and do, but sometimes I'd like to cook a meal for my wife or taste my wife's cooking. And Cecilia only cooks certain foods like soup, especially for nursing mothers, which feels weird for me to eat. I'm a man, so I feel uncomfortable eating food meant to stimulate breastfeeding and uterus recovery. We don't really pay anything for Cecilia because Dee's parents can't be here to help. They send us about $100 a week that covers groceries and some formula. Cecilia cooks with that money, but I guess she uses some of it for soap and whatever, because we haven't bought anything for her besides a few appreciation gifts my wife picked out. No idiots here. I understand where you're coming from, but have you considered how much your sister-in-law saves you both on childcare expenses? That crap's expensive. There could be a happy medium if there was better communication. A session with a counselor to mediate and ensure everything is heard would be helpful. Maybe she could have designated off days where she does her own thing. Nah, dude, this isn't about the sister-in-law being there. It's about OP wanting his wife to be a stay-at-home mom. They can't afford daycare while they work. So if sister-in-law leaves, the wife will have to quit her job and stay at home. His wife doesn't want to be a stay-at-home mom. Instead of figuring that out, he's trying to force it by getting rid of their free childcare so she won't have a choice. You are the idiot, OP, and that's not how you make these decisions. It's worse than that. OP says they both have to work because of financial situations. With an extra mouth to feed, their financial situation won't get better, so the wife still has to work. He doesn't want a stay-at-home mom. He wants a full-time working wife, and on top of that, comes home and do just about all the housework and childcare, and he'll pitch in when he feels like it, which means he'll just do a little bit of work. Cecilia is doing you a tremendous favor. How about this? You book your sister-in-law a week-long vacation as a thank you. See how difficult it is without her, then thank her profusely. My toddler daughter has been in home daycare for a few months now. The teacher, Sasha, is very nice. I'm normally all for my daughter cleaning her messes. However, I find when I arrived, Sasha expected my daughter to finish cleaning up whatever she was playing with, which again would be fine, but it delays us getting out the door and heading home. Sometimes we have plans. I started texting Sasha when I was so many minutes away, asking her to get my daughter ready, and that seemed to work. My daughter would be in her jacket and reading a book, easy to put away versus a huge Duplo project or similar. Until today, things were crazy and I was in a rush. And we had a lot to do this afternoon, and I ran behind because of car trouble. When I arrived, my daughter and some friends were in the middle of cleaning up a big mess. I told my daughter we had to get her coat. Sasha said she needs to finish cleaning up her part. I said any other day, sure, but I'm running late and we can't miss this appointment. Sasha tried arguing that the kids needed to learn responsibility, and I flat out said no. I grabbed my daughter, put her coat on, and left. As I said, hectic afternoon, so I only just now had time to check my text. I had one from Sasha saying poor planning on my part doesn't mean I can break the rules. I pointed out that this is not in the contract, and I can bring my child home whenever I need to. She accused me of undermining her authority. I was given a verbal warning, which I found ridiculous. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I completely agree with the daycare's teaching sentiment, but it is your kid, and you can leave whenever you darn well want. Just need to be kind and respectful about it. Daycare pickup should not take 20 minutes. Working parents must get home, run errands, make dinner, do extracurriculars, and have quality time with their children. That 20 minutes of waiting around at daycare really cut into a person's tight schedule. Perhaps the teacher should not allow messy or busy activities after 4:30 p.m. and instead encourage reading or larger, simpler toys or things that are easy to put away in a hurry. Disagree. OP's the idiot. It's not a waste of time to teach children that if they make a huge mess, they need to help clean up. If they leave without helping, that leaves more work for their friends, which doesn't make your kid popular. I'm a mother, and I understand there's a lot to do at the end of the day. I also work in an after-school care, and if kids can't contribute, we must stay late and waste our time. Care providers aren't servants. Yep, you are the idiot. Also very short-sighted. You're using a home daycare. If the provider doesn't like you, you'll probably lose your spot without enough notice to find somewhere else. Play nice with the people you rely on, or you will have more to complain about than a hectic afternoon. A lot of appointments are more important than cleaning up a mess. It was the daycare provider's choice to do something messy. It wasn't OP's choice to have car trouble. As OP said, it was an appointment they couldn't miss. It was, however, a mess that an adult could take care of. OP, she's looking after your child, but she doesn't have authority over you. And verbal warnings? She's on a power trip. I hope your car troubles are resolved. My husband, male 35, and I, female 34, were recently at my sister's 40th birthday party, which was quite big. Many family and friends were there, many of whom we had not met before. As the evening drew on, many people with young children left, but by midnight, there were still a few teenagers around by the time the party was wrapping up. My sister has 2 teenagers, female and male, and they had all stuck together most of the night, so I hadn't interacted with many of them. That said, while lending my sister a hand and helping clean up, I overheard a conversation between my niece and another boy, 18. He was encouraging her to take some of the leftover alcohol before the adults noticed, and my niece repeatedly told him that she didn't want to. At this point, I will not lie, I was absolutely eavesdropping because it seemed to be getting worse and worse by the second. They thought they were quiet and not drawing attention, but didn't anticipate me standing where I could hear them. I decided to step in when the boy told my niece that she could cop a feel if she took some of the alcohol, and he would show her a good time later. My niece said, "Ew, gross." I walked over and told the boy, how dare he speak to someone like that? He looked like a deer in headlights when he realized I'd overheard the whole thing and kept stuttering. But I told him that he still had a lot more growing up to do if the thought of any of what he said was okay. I told him that he should be ashamed of himself for showing so much disrespect to my niece. I said that she had already told him that she didn't want to take the drinks, and to try and pressure her and bargain with intimacy was a horrible thing to do. I hadn't noticed, but the boy's dad, 37, had come over while I was talking and said that I had no right to discipline his child and that his son had done nothing wrong besides being a teenager. He said that I had emasculated his son in front of a peer and that I was shaming him for having urges, which are normal for his age group. He started to raise his voice at me when he asked who I thought I was, which is what attracted the attention of my husband and the rest of the party. My husband told him to back off and not speak to me that way, which is when my sister basically threw us all out and called me an embarrassment. She subsequently texted me saying that I was not welcome again until I apologized to the boy and his father, and her whole birthday was ruined because I had to stick my nose where it didn't belong. She said the boy's dad was her coworker, and I had made her work life a nightmare when it wasn't my place to say anything from the beginning. I'm now starting to feel quite bad. Was I the idiot? So wait, your sister was upset that you disciplined a teenager trying to pressure her daughter to steal alcohol because he was a coward to do it himself, and at one point suggested inappropriate favors for doing so, and she kicked you, her sister, out from the party for making comments to a teenager about it? And the dad excused his son's behavior, and your sister was okay with it? Wow. Unless your sister has an affair with that boy's dad, I have no clue why she took his side, or doesn't care that her daughter was exposed to such crap at her own party. Your sister is a terrible mother to your niece. You are not the idiot at all. That boy needed to be embarrassed. It's evident why he behaved the way he did. Apple falling, tree close. He certainly wasn't going to be disciplined at home. In fact, you are so not the idiot that I'm issuing a public thank you for your service to the community and your niece. That child is 18. At that point, it's not disciplining a child. It's calling out bad behavior, an adult's bad behavior. The sad thing is that his behavior will most likely not be corrected. He just saw his dad defending him with the teenagers have urges, it's all normal thing. I hope that young man will encounter more adults like OP in his life to call him out on his BS, to counter the bad parenting done at home.